Hello everybody, and welcome to Hungary's favorite language learning video blog. I'm your host, Michael Lyons. This is the second in a series of videos about Irish language and Irish culture. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Irish holiday Bloomsday with English teacher and Irish native Claire O'Brien. Claire will be telling us a little bit about the origins of Bloomsday, how it is celebrated in Ireland and in the rest of the world, including Hungary. So, welcome Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about Bloomsday? What is it? How did it get started?
Yes, Bloomsday is celebrated on June 16th, and it's to honour one of the most famous Irish writers, James Joyce. So James Joyce published a book called Ulysses in the year 1922. And it went on to be known as one of the greatest works of literature in the English language. Mm-hmm. And
quite a thick
yeah,
read, right?
It's about 742 pages or so, and it's for a lot of students, in particular literature students. It's their great pride and joy to finish it. if you've read Ulysses, if a person has read Ulysses, you'll know.
Okay.
And what we do with Bloomsday is people will dress up like characters from the book, mm-hmm. and they'll walk around Dublin. So they'll take the path of the character in the book, mm-hmm. through the city of Dublin, and they will stop and they'll read quotes or they'll do dramatic performances, and some other people in the evening time perhaps will go and do a pub crawl of all the pubs mentioned in the book. And
what exactly is a pub crawl?
A pub crawl is when you go from pub to pub and you take a drink in each.
Okay.
Or two, depending on how enthusiastic you're feeling.
I've actually done a literary pub crawl in Dublin once, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who visits Dublin. I think that the tour guides were two actors, and they were stopping, acting out a scene from Ulysses or this or that or the other, and having a drink, of course. Everywhere as you go. It's a lot of fun, a nice way to kind of see the city. Yeah,
Dublin is a really literary city. We're really mm-hmm. proud of our literary tradition, and James Joyce is one of our biggest kind of stars of literature. If you look around the city, you'll find quotes written in different parts. There's lots of buildings mm-hmm. named after characters from the story, and even James Joyce's wife. There's a youth hostel and a pub named after her in the kind of central district. So it's really, it's
a big thing.
Yeah, Dublin loves Ulysses.
Okay. And why is it called Bloomsday?
It's called Bloomsday after the main character in the book, who is called Leopold Bloom.
Okay. And without having to read all 740 some pages, could you tell us what Ulysses is about?
Yes. Ulysses is about a guy, as I said, called Leopold Bloom. And it's just about his ordinary life. It's about a day mm-hmm. in his life. Mm-hmm. It's about his day in the 16th of June 1904.
And it all takes place in one day?
It's all one day.
All 740 pages?
Yes, and it's roughly based on Homer's Odyssey. In fact, Ulysses is the Latin, I believe, for Odysseus, mm-hmm, who was the hero of Homer's.
I see. So quite an ambitious book.
Yes, it's extremely ambitious. It's broken into 18 parts, mm-hmm. and each of them is based on one of the sagas from the Odyssey. But what makes it so odd is that it's a really everyday book. It's just a normal guy going mm-hmm, and doing mm-hmm. normal things. So
it's created an epic out of one day in the life of a guy in Dublin on a given day and time.
James Joyce believed himself to be a genius mm-hmm. and decided to write as such. So it's written in an extremely interesting style. Mm-hmm. It's written in what's called a conscious thought style, which means that he doesn't just write the story and what the characters are doing, he writes every single thing the character is thinking. Mm-hmm, so mm-hmm. if he's watching somebody eat, he will describe the sounds that the person is hearing, mm-hmm. what they're thinking, if he thinks the person is eating disgustingly, if he thinks the person is eating really nicely, every single thing he thinks of, which makes it extremely difficult to read because you don't know what is story, what is he thinking, mm-hmm. And it just kind of shoots off in so many different directions that it's really just hard to keep track of it. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Okay, so it does not sound like light reading for the beach or
no,
like that.
Although it is recommended that you take it on holiday because you have a lot of spare time.
Okay. Here's a question. If the book is so difficult, and people say that it is, what makes it so popular in spite of that?
What makes it so popular are really the themes of it. That it's an extremely human book. It's about like a man from Dublin, and his fear, his jealousy, love, hate. Because normally you think a book based on the Odyssey, you know, with Odysseus, it's this massive hero.
Yes.
But the character Leopold Bloom, he's really human. He's really easy to relate to. And for Irish people in particular, it kind of hits us close to home, because English had not been spoken in Ireland for too long before. In fact, James Joyce's generation was one of the first who would have spoken English as a native language. So literature would not have been for Irish people.
I see.
It was for English people, or people from the States or Canada. They had writers. We did not in English. We have Irish language writers. We have lots of poetry and plays, but not a lot in English.
So one of the first Irish writers to become famous writing in English.
But it wasn't just that he became famous writing in English, it's that he created a masterpiece in English.
I see.
Which for us was, we were having problems in time with England, that we were still a part of Britain. So for us to have one of the greatest masterpieces in the Queen's own language was a little bit of a kind of...
Okay, not apart from Britain, but a part of Britain, right?
Yeah. So we felt pretty proud of ourselves.
Okay. So an important part of the national identity and pride.
Yeah. And as well as that, it's literarily speaking, it's a spectacular piece of work. It's written in Old English verse. It's written in Dublin slang. It's spectacularly written, pretty much. People liken it to Shakespeare, in that it's written extremely poetically, but it's about really vulgar things.
Everyday vulgar sort of things.
Yeah, but and in fact, when it was first released, it was banned in England, Ireland, and the US.
Nothing like getting banned for a bit of good publicity, you know,
exactly, yes. They deemed
make everybody want to read it.
Yeah, exactly. They deemed it as unsuitable at the time. So
okay, from that point on, you don't need a marketing budget, right?
Exactly, it just goes straight.
Okay, here's a question for you. How did they choose the day for Bloomsday, or what's the significance of the day?
It was actually the day that James Joyce went on his first date with his wife. So he was spectacularly in love with this woman. Her name was Nora Barnacle, and he wanted to commemorate it.
Okay. Just a moment there. Okay, and one last question. What would you recommend to do for Bloomsday if somebody's visiting Ireland at that time?
Unless you're a little bit familiar with Joyce, I wouldn't recommend taking part in a lot of the events, because they're quite difficult to understand. You really need to be a part of Dublin life and culture to fully appreciate it. So for me, I would sit back, relax, and watch the people running around in Edwardian costumes shouting poetry. Okay. That's entertainment enough.
So if you don't already have good prior knowledge of Joyce, it's not worth really trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah, it can end up as a bit of a headache.
Okay.
Because he creates a lot of words, and there's a lot of Irish slang that's used as well.
I see.
So it's for me, Bloomsday is for people who love Joyce.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm one of the many people who have started the book with great intentions but have not finished it.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Thank you for being so candid about it. So for people who are not huge Joyce fans, St. Patrick's Day or just about any other day would be a better day to visit Dublin.
Yeah. Unless you're really into literature and the literary tradition, it's a difficult day to celebrate.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Claire, thank you so much for joining us again today. It's been a real experience. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like us and share us on Facebook, spread the word to your friends, and of course feel free to post any comments underneath the video. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next time. Cheers, or go Rev Mahagat.